So, how you been, Jack? I obviously just got a text message from you yesterday, so you want to do a little bit of an interview. So here we are. We'll record it and see what happens. So how you been?
It's been great. I just want to introduce myself quickly. Hey everyone, I'm Jack. I am covering some of the artists over at Ink and Dagger Tattoo in Roswell, Georgia. And next up on my list is Brian Bennett. And we're just going to have a conversation, get to know him. Obviously, I know him, but we're going to talk as if we don't so that we can start from square one so that everybody can get all on the same page.
There you go. I imagine you're going to learn something new, anyways. Just figure out what we cover or talk about. I don't know. Maybe I didn't get to tell you more of my story, but
To kind of start off with the arbitrary things, where are you from, Brian?
I was born in Connecticut, a little town called Torrington, and then I moved down to actually Roswell, Georgia, back in 1998, and I've been here ever since. So
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I know you told me that you kind of started out kind of piercing. Is that
yeah,
something you did at the same time as tattooing, or did you pierce for a
no,
few
so
years?
I started in the piercing world in 1997, and then started piercing professionally in 1999, and then I didn't start tattooing until 2012, and then was tattooing full time 2016 April. So April of this year will be 10 years of full time tattooing for me.
Wow, that's so amazing. I had no idea you had such an important anniversary coming up.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's
So,
a big deal.
wow. So, when you started approaching the world of body modifications, did this come from any influence within your family? Does anyone there have a history with art or body modifications at all?
Honestly, I had an uncle a long time ago that had the like tattoo on his arm, and I maybe thought it was cool. It's really the first and only thing that really comes to mind. But it was more of I guess more in my town. There was more of that kind of popping up. Like, I think girl that I dated at one time in high school was like the first person in our school that ever had a tongue piercing. Um, so yeah, that was all the time in this like late 90s punk rock time when we it almost got clout in our little circle by having more piercings or something than somebody else. We were too young to be tattooed at that point, so the anybody getting pierced whatever was a way to go. So like, like I said, my girlfriend was the first one to have a tongue piercing in the school, and then somebody might have an eyebrow piercing here or there or whatever, but having that stuff kind of pop up started becoming cool.
Yes, but you couldn't call attention to it ever, or else you'd be at risk of being called a poser.
That's funny. Yeah, that was yeah, long time ago.
So, when you think about those subcultures, would you say that those were a big inspiration in your art, or where did you pull from, whether it be film, music, TV, or other artists in different mediums like painters? Basically, I want to know who you paid attention to other than tattooers.
So honestly, there really wasn't any of that. So I guess to kind of reframe where I was, I came into the tattoo world at 19. I was the youngest person working in a company that I was with, so I was younger than even the support staff, even the people answering the phones. I was youngest all the way around. Come on, here comes the cat. Say hi. Um, yeah. So at that time, maybe there was art. I drew as a kid. There was the little bits here or there or whatever, but there really wasn't much of an influence. Um, um, I mean, I think I remember redrawing like Guns N' Roses album covers, or redrawing like Looney Tunes characters. That was a thing early '90s. My mom actually still has a handful of these old drawings that he used to do.
Oh
But
my god.
yeah, there wasn't really much outside influence as far as art. And then started working at a really high level tattoo shop, and then that's where all that came in. So
So, when you finally started tattooing, what would you say got you towards your niche? Oh, hello, darling.
look up there.
Oh, pretty girl. Her ears, the orange tips.
She's
All
been
right.
acting kind of funny lately. Like she's just been hiding. Come on, lay down, lay down. You're okay. It almost makes me wonder if she's like okay. You've been almost be distant. Lay
Yeah,
down.
they tend to hide away when they're not feeling well
Yeah.
for some reason. They're too strong to admit it. But let me
Yeah.
rephrase the question for the purpose of the recording. All right. So, when you started tattooing, obviously it takes years to develop your niche. What did you start with style-wise?
So I think my start in a style really was just this foundational place where I wanted my basics, my fundamentals of tattooing to be solid. So I really focused a lot on making sure I had every bit of my line work was all as clean and crisp and strong as it could be. And then later on start worrying about like packing color and blending color. But I think stylistically, it's actually kind of funny how those would go together. I think people a long time like or young people maybe in the art world altogether, you end up in a place where you're like looking for your style. But I don't think that people really get or understand that that you are your style and your style will just show itself. So I think a lot of what I do is focused around strong line work, and it is just something that I made. Maybe because I did focus on making sure that I had such strong line work for the whole time. So I think as a style, that stuff starts to come up when you kind of figure where you're good at, or like another thing I've just kind of recently learned was being able to rush through things or take your time through things. So I think as a tattooer, I think a lot of times we have these ideas that good tattooers can move fast and they can work fast and get through things quickly. So I think as a young tattooer, you have this thought in mind that you have to like move quick. But then it almost seemed like it's a virtue to get to this place where you're like, wait, I could take my time and do this so much better. And then I think as you talk about these things, this is where, I think where style rolls in, like, can you actually put in solid color? And then when you do, I think it's part about taking time. But yeah, I think this is where style comes from. It's your character, it's your personality. Like, do you have this OCD moment like me where I can't like leave anything like alone that's not perfect and clean? Or you have somebody else stylistically that is cool, kind of just scratching some things together. Not saying that that's anything bad, but it's a style too, and it'll it might look a little bit faster, might look a little bit looser. But yeah, I think funny. I think I got off on it enough now where I'm not really sure if I'm answering your question completely, but yeah, I think style comes from your character. I think as things evolve, it's just that is you. It's you on skin or you on paper.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. Your foundation was, the bold, clean lines, and whatever, just kind of erupted after learning those foundational techniques was you coming through. There's the technical part and then the creative. Once you nailed down having that technical foundation, you were pretty confident in letting the rest kind of, reveal itself to you.
Yeah, so I think as I learned how to make clean lines, it stuck with me. It's my character. I think as much as like the same of somebody that might like I can't go to bed with dishes in the stink. Like that's a character thing. Like it's like it's just who you are. It's ingrained in who you are. And then me making things clean, just the way it is, it's this driving force. So it's not even like a chosen thing. Like I don't think I could make messy line work if I had to. I just don't, it's not in my DNA to do that. So yeah, I think that's where I was headed with the style thing is a lot of people think that you can create a style. Like I want to be, I want to look like an 80s punk rocker. Like, yeah, maybe you could do that. You can curate how you put your wardrobe together. But I think with art and style, I think it's so much more about who you are and how these things come together.
Is that something that you is that one of the things you didn't fully understand when you started tattooing and understand more deeply now?
Yeah, for sure. I think this is probably something that you have like these wake up moments, like, wow, this is actually how this really is. So I don't know if I'm too old or everyone else is too young for this reference, but the thought of like Neo in the Matrix, when he has this like moment of like, wow, I can actually read what this code is now. I think when you're in something for long enough that you get to this place where things things become way more clear. And I think it just it takes time. I think another thing that actually came to mind through this whatever is a bigger piece that kind of present itself lately is the idea. I've spent so much time through my tattoo career thinking that that making tattoos that didn't hurt people was actually like a big virtue for myself. Like, oh wow, it was so nice, I could get tattooed by Brian, and it wasn't even painful. So I think for the longest time I had this idea that I was doing something special because I wasn't hurting people. And then I got tattooed by a friend, another tattooer, and I promise you, I felt every one of the fucking needles, everything that went in through that whole that whole session. I felt like I felt every little bit of it, and it fucking hurt, but it was great. And he never retouched any spot. There wasn't any going back into it. Anything that he ever, like any spot that he worked through, it was just in and done. Tattoo looked amazing. It never had any kind of flaws. It never had any scabs or nothing. No piece of it looked light. Like it looks amazing and beautiful. So yeah, I think that was something that I put together later on was, there's different ways to tattoo. And if somebody's style hurts, then, maybe it hurts for the right reason. Granted, it could be like a bad tattooer and they could definitely make something hurt, and it's not going to be all clean. It might not be the greatest, but there are great tattooers that can put in a tattoo fast and it be painful and beautiful when it's done. So yeah, that was something big I've learned of recently.
Yeah, that is definitely really a really good observation, because yeah, people derive value from different things. I'm sure obviously a client would appreciate the best of both worlds, where it's like painless and bold and anchored, and but yeah, that's just not reality sometimes.
Yeah.
But
I think it
just
might be
to
hard for somebody to make a well-saturated tattoo without having it be in enough to get to that hurtful place. So yeah, I think that's part of my evolution lately too, is just, kind of knowing how, like, okay, we're going to make this hurt a little bit more, but it's going to be so much more worth it.
So getting back to some of the questions that are more for introductory folks. If you were to describe your specific niche, the artwork that you find yourself making most often and are most familiar with, essentially, as a tattooer, what would that be?
I think for so much of my career, I ended up just doing what people brought to me. So I don't know, on a very honest note, like there wasn't really much and haven't been much creating for me. I think there's just been a whole lot of time of, almost being that service industry person, to where, if somebody comes to me and has some like script letters or, an infinity symbol or, whatever it was, I feel like I've done a lot of years of that. And it's only been as of recently that I've kind of been exploring like who I am and what I can do and what I can bring. And, it's been a new journey. So I've been at Ink and Dagger now for 3.5 years. Really been searching for this way where I can present myself. And then over the last 1.5 years or so, I've been really focused on doing Japanese work, traditional Japanese. Got a handful of sleeves that I've put together. I've got a leg sleeve that's coming to completion really soon. Got some other big pieces kind of on the burner coming. But then other than that, I've been starting to do some comic stuff. I got like a really cool Superman piece that's coming together. I've got a Venom piece that I put together, and then Spider-Man. I got some, some little stuff that are on the way, but I feel like it's just now recently that I'm kind of getting to a point of knowing where my direction is and where my direction will go. So I guess here I am again rambling. Like, did I answer your question? I almost need these questions here myself so I can check back.
You did. You got a couple of the kind of like those key stylistic descriptions I was looking for, like Japanese and traditional Japanese and comic inspired. When I think about you, like if I were to sell you to somebody, I'd say, yeah, Brian is a tattooer. He tattoos mainly in a few different genres. So I'd say like neo traditional, American traditional, traditional Japanese, and like anime slash animation, essentially. Would you agree with those categories?
Yeah, yeah. So I've done a whole bunch of all of that. The last shop I was working at, there wasn't anybody that really did any big solid line work stuff, so I was doing all the traditional stuff through there. And that stuff's really comfortable with me. I think there's definitely something cool about traditional where you have this almost plain simple piece that really requires, again, back to these fundamentals of being able to like put in a good tattoo for the quality of the piece, seeing as the design might be pretty simple. So I've done a whole bunch of that. And then when it come to Ink and Dagger, there was a handful of other people that were doing that same type of work. So I didn't really feel like I wanted to be on a stage kind of competing with other people. And that kind of sent me in this idea of like what to do, where to go. But yeah, past that, I would say you definitely have a good description of what I do, what I like to do, what I'm comfortable at. And I've chased this anime thing, and I'm really excited about that. So I think really when you strip it all the way down, what I do is I feel like I do pieces with meaningful line work, and then just bold, saturated color to really make the pieces come together. So yeah, whether that means we're doing anime or doing a cartoon or Winnie the Pooh, or a big foo dog or Hanya, it all kind of fits into the same thing, like meaningful line work and then big bold color.
Yeah, when you say that phrase meaningful line work, is that more so in line with the subject matter you're working with or the actual client that you're tattooing?
So this is actually a phrase I've used a lot through my consultation process. Is
Mhm.
when I make art, I'm trying to figure out what the star of my show is and what my supporting cast needs to be. So, in where that lines up with any one piece that we're doing, you could use a bold, thick line to get somebody's attention, and then you could use little thin lines to support. So if I'm doing a rose and a leaf, there's going to be a thicker line weight on the outside, and then all the little veins of the leaves will be a much thinner line. So using those two different line weights, you can have meaningful line weight, and you can tell a story by that. So if you want the rose to stand off and really be noticeable, you can get a handful of good, solid, thick lines through that rose. And then maybe when you actually get down to doing the little leaf part and the stem, you could do all thin lines with those. And then your eyes are just going to be drawn to that rose. So that's where I'm using this meaningful piece. Is I'm intentionally using different line weights to help tell my story.
I like that analogy you used about it being kind of a production where you have like your supporting actors, your main characters, and everything else that kind of goes on in the background to like actually make a production. So
Yeah,
that's a neat way
yeah,
to, especially to speak to clients who, don't have the same knowledge. when it comes to tattooing and being tattooed. That's a great analogy to use to
Yeah.
kind of cue them into your thought process. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, a lot of times when I end up using that analogy is when people come in and they want, they've got this like shopping list of things. So, I need a baseball for my grandfather, but then I also need his like date of birth, and I need this, and I need this for my grandmother, and I need this, and you start making this big laundry list, and then there's no way to build a hierarchy through that. So a lot of times what I might have people understand is like, hey, if your grandfather loved baseball, like, do a baseball, do a bat, do something or whatever. And then if you want to do, grandpa's name under it, you could do that small, but not to where it takes away from the art. And then you want to do something for another family member or whatever, like do that in a whole different tattoo. You don't need to put this all together to where it makes it hard to read. So yeah, I use that analogy all the time.
So, speaking of working with clients, if you were to describe your ideal client or project, what would immediately come to mind?
So this was something that we ended up talking with Russ a whole lot about too. Russ kind of brought this idea of he used this idea of avatar. Who's your avatar?
Mm.
Who is your ideal person? So I've joked a whole bunch that I would love for my avatar to be somebody that could take PTO, paid time off, to where they can come into the tattoo shop, spend a whole day. Maybe they're sitting on their laptop and shooting emails back and forth or responding back and forth. But, I think of myself working with business professional people, that might have a nostalgia for the cartoons that they watched or the anime shows that they watched. And we get to put together cool things like that they can, kind of bring back their childhood, or maybe we end up doing a full sleeve of big koi, kind of bringing that traditional Japanese back into piece, and having, multiple full day sessions where we can just sit, we hang out, we get to spend time together, get to know each other. So the tattoo process becomes way more of a journey of getting to know somebody and getting to understand somebody much more than it is just, putting a design and coloring it in on somebody's arm. So.
Yeah, I like that because it's really a very small amount of time you spend being at the destination when it comes to getting tattooed. It's, we clean you off, we take some pictures and wrap you up. It's really more about that experience in between that initial conversation and that destination. So I like that you like to romanticize that part of it because that's the biggest part of it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, it really is. Yeah, we just over the last couple of years, I remember this older tattooer getting onto Instagram and just saying like, "Hey, look, I'm just going to let the cat out of the bag. I'm older in my career. I don't really feel like playing nice guy anymore." So he's like, if we don't get along, or I'm not feeling it, I'm just going to deny tattooing anybody that I don't feel like I can sit and actually have a strong conversation with for 4 hours. He goes, yeah, you might want this artwork, but if we can't sit together and have a good time, or I look forward to having you on my schedule, he's like, I'm just not going to put myself there anymore. And then I think there's a lot of people that miss that. You don't really know where you're going. You don't know these artists. Maybe you've just seen somebody on Instagram a couple times. You book an appointment with them, and then you don't really notice that this person might be, the kind of guy to sit there with headphones in and not talk to you. And then you're like, man, I wanted an experience out of this. So I think that's a direction of Instagram and social media. I feel like anybody that hasn't kind of picked up on I think you will really need to soon is, be able to get your face out there so people know who you are, and then clients are going to come sit with you and get tattooed with you because you can actually have this interaction, because you can feel valued and, excited to, share time with somebody. So yeah, tattoos are definitely deeper than, just putting art on somebody's body.
yeah, I once spoke to another tattooer who said that he wanted his clients to essentially be able to remember his name. you
Yeah.
know? like not step away from the experience, not knowing, not having any connection, so much so that you can't even tell your friends, your family who put this artwork permanently on your body, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That's actually a big part of my daily, deal too, is I have somebody come into the station, I'm doing the first tattoo for them, whatever, do something little. And then, it's like, oh my God. So I know what we're doing today, but look, you got a really cool piece on your other arm. Who did that for you? And when they're like, I don't remember his name. I'm like, ah, man, that dude fucked up. That dude didn't do, what you're supposed to do. Cause, I want my clients to actually remember me, remember my name. I want you to remember times that you laughed during the session. I want you to remember like the other people that are in the room with us. So we work in a cool room at Ink and Dagger called the Pit. So there could be 4 tattooers and 4 clients in there in any one given day, and we're all intermingling conversation, and we're talking and we're having fun. We're talking amongst each other and amongst clients. But yeah, I want people to come back and remember those stories. So if you can remember your experience of getting tattooed, as much as you remember the tattoo that's on you, then I've done my job. I've done something right.
yeah, I definitely agree with that take. If you're, it's really a hard thing to opt out of, to be part of that synergy in a tattoo shop, You'd have to be very consciously, um, I guess, in your own world to not feel that all around you and soak it all in. So you'd want a client who is porous, essentially, is willing to soak it all in.
You know what? I'm thinking about this as we're going through it too. It's definitely great to have a conversation and be able to go through this stuff. But if there's ever a client that comes to me, that just is like, hey, I'm kind of shy. I'm an introvert. I would rather, sit here and keep my mouth shut and just be able to take it all in. Then, that stuff works for me too. If I know I can make a positive impact, I think that's where I am. So, maybe somebody doesn't have to join in as much of the banter, whatever. If they're introvert, they want to be quiet and then just enjoy what's going on around them, let them have that too. But yeah, if we can make a positive experience for somebody and they can remember it down the road, that's what I'm looking for.
Awesome. I like how you made your description of the ideal client more so about them and not so much about you. That lets me know what your main focus is when you're coming into work, which is really nailing that interaction with them, whatever it looks like.
Yeah. 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 I mean, really, when it all comes down to it, us tattooers could be a bunch of fucking glorified divas. But I think everybody needs to really remember that we're in the service industry. We're here to take care of people. We're here to do a service that they can't do for themselves. So yeah, it's not about us. It's not it's not about what what I want to do or what I feel like should be done. We're here to fulfill somebody. We're here to help them with their needs, and we've been lucky enough to have them choose us to be the one to help them with that. And I think all of us really should be grateful that we have the opportunity to have such a cool job. And just remember, you're here to help people. So
Yeah. So when it comes to, like, speaking of outside perspectives, if someone were to look at a picture of a tattoo you did or even your portfolio without knowing who you are, what would you hope they notice and appreciated about it?
So for me, I want my tattoos to be strong. So I want them to be as strong as they are today in 10 years from now, to where somebody looks at that and be like, oh man, that's just so clean, so strong. Like almost have this idea that maybe it looks like a sticker. Maybe it doesn't even look real. It's so strong, it's so solid, so saturated, and clean. And I want my tattoos to be able to be read across the room. So yeah, if somebody enough can see the style of what I'm doing, and then have it be readable and just strong in years or even decades, I think that's what I'm looking for. Funny, I'm back at the same spot. Did I answer your question?
No, you absolutely did. Intuitively, when you're designing a tattoo, what is a decision you make now that just feels like it comes naturally to you? Like something you would have had to take hours to think about before, but now it's like, this is something I do every time I design a new piece
Yeah.
of art.
So I think there was even a point in my art life where I didn't understand this concept, but contrast is the key everywhere. Everything you do, contrast is key. So if you use the same hue or same tone of like a red and same tone of a green, and that's your like traditional rose, your eye can't see it because maybe you're kind of focusing on this red and green thing or whatever. But if they're the same saturation, if they're the same tone, it looks very flat. So there's no contrast in that. So where my mind is now is where and how to build saturation, because that essentially is going to build depth. But yeah, I think there was a long time maybe where that just didn't click, that I didn't put that together. I didn't see that. And I can actually remember points where that light bulb started coming together and coming on. But it's contrast. So like we talked about with the line weight thing, you have thick lines, thin lines to tell your story. Maybe you have a very dull dead green next to a bright red to make that red seem super exciting. So it's contrast, and now contrast lives so much in my world that it's not even thought about anymore. It's just the way it is. So you want something to be bright, you got to put a whole bunch of dull around it. You want something to seem skinny, put a bunch of thick things around it to where that little thing, oh my God, look how solid that little tiny line is. So it's contrast. Yeah, contrast is something that's just part of life now that yeah, maybe it wasn't even anything that I really understood before.
So how does that principle translate when you're not working with colored inks, when you're doing black and gray?
So with black and gray, you could end up using a whole lot more skin tone. So say you have if you have a candle burning in a dark room, that candle is going to be skin tone where it's on fire, where it's lit, and then everything else around it will just be so dark that it's only casting these light shadows off onto the other things around. But you can put so much dark around there that you could actually make somebody's skin look like it's bright, and that's it's all black and gray. Or honestly, you can almost do that whole scene with just black, which is another thing I actually enjoy, being able to take just like a big cap of black and being able to work through something that somebody else may have used a bunch of gray tones in and kind of done things soft. I like to think about using the really cool whip shading or pepper shading or whatever and just go through black. So not even have any gray, but be able to do a whole cool scene like that. But yeah, it's it goes back to the contrast thing. So you want something to look really bright, put a whole bunch of black around it. You want to see something really dark, just leave a whole bunch of skin tone around it, and it plays that game, tricks your mind.
Wow, that's really cool that contrast is just a principle that you've learned to a T. It doesn't matter whether you're using color or not. It still kind of plays by the same rules. As a
Yeah.
non-tattooer, that's a technical thing that I didn't fully understand. So that's
Yeah.
really neat.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Contrast. And it's
speaking
everywhere.
of, that's true. But speaking of things that people may not know or be aware of, what is a common misconception you'd say clients have about tattooers, or it could even be you as a tattooer?
Common misconception. I don't know. I guess I would like to I would like to break down this idea that maybe people don't feel cool enough to come into the shop, or maybe that maybe they're a mom in a minivan going from soccer practice or dance and they're like, oh, I want to get a tattoo, but I don't feel cool enough to go in there. I think that's a big misconception I would like to break down, at least with us. I guess that even takes me into a deeper thought. For the longest time, I used to walk around, or still do really. I spend more time smiling at people or making more eye contact with people, or I hold doors longer open for people to just put this good into the world, put this love into the world. And this all started having full sleeves, tattooed all over. I'm obviously walking around as a heavily tattooed person. And I did a lot of that and do a lot of that to kind of break down these barriers, that tattoos are just like these scary people, or the biker, whatever, the old timer dudes that are just scruffy and so I've always taken steps around the world, just trying to make things a little bit nicer, just show people that tattoos and tattoo people aren't, we don't have to be bad guys.
Right. Yeah, I
So,
know like back in the day, tattoo shops were kind of like a third space for like all kinds of people, but mostly a specific niche. Like it wouldn't be the type of people you see walking into a tattoo shop today, which is literally anyone. I think it'd
yeah,
be really cool if we could get back to like a time where people are just hanging out at shops.
yeah,
And it used to be the people who are just kind of like you're annoyed by a little bit, but still like that's your community. That's
yeah.
who makes up
So
your world and contributes to the
being somebody
culture.
that's been being somebody that's been in the shop and being through that whole time, we used to just refer to them as hangarounds, and it wasn't meant to be anything mean. But as as I was talking to a different friend or whatever, we would kind of be like, oh, this person was at the shop, oh, she was, that was one of the hangarounds, when people would just come through. Like we had, hell, back in the day, we had a point where like kids from our local high school it would be their Friday and Saturday night things. They would just end up coming through and looking at body jewelry or talking about tattoos or whatever. But like there was a handful of people that we just knew were going to come around. There was friends of the shop. So the other tattoos around us would have just friends that would just pull in and stop and be like, hey man, what's going on? And we might be sitting there tattooing somebody, and you'd have somebody in a chair, and it didn't even matter because we were just all talking. It was like a barber shop. And I'm actually making efforts to bring that back. I know people live close to the shop or whatever. So, hey, if you're ever in the area, bring that tattoo back. Let me take a look at it. Or, hey, if you have any questions about whatever, like, come stop in, come back into the shop. So I don't know if that's something we necessarily lost maybe with COVID, where, we couldn't be around people, or we started discouraging people from coming around. Maybe that's something just a little bit newer. But yeah, there was definitely a time where the tattoo shop was much more of a barber shop seeming, hey, I'm just going in there. Like it wasn't even a point. You weren't even looking to get anything done. It was just stopping in. You might have a random client, hey, I brought you a coffee, or it was cool. It was a spot. It was a hang around. It was a clubhouse. Yeah, I think I would love to have some of that come back.
So when you think about kind of how people use a tattoo shop as a third space, what are some things you'd like to see different at Ink and Dagger that would kind of promote this welcoming in of the greater community, even people who probably aren't even that invested in the artist there?
Yeah, I think that would be tough. I don't know, almost a tough culture to corral. I think really the best we could do is trying to tell clients come back through, or maybe like maybe they're saying, oh, I would love for you to tattoo my wife or my husband, or my brother or my best friend. So maybe that would be a place to kind of start opening that journey, is to be like, oh, if you want me to tattoo him, just bring him in. Why don't you guys just come stop in someday and come say hi? Like, I'm here from these to these hours on these and these dates. Like, just bring him by. You can come stand in the doorway and chat with me even if I'm working. So yeah, maybe that would be a way to bring that culture that back, get people to actually just come back into the shop. I think that could be something cool.
Sure, an invitation goes a long way for
Yeah.
multiple things. So, outside of the shop, who would you say you are? Outside of tattooing, what does Brian do? What is Brian like?
So I'm a dad. Funny, this is gonna get me fucking broken up. He can hear me. He's in the other room, but I live
Oh,
with my son. I'm here to learn. I'm here to teach him. I'm here to make sure that he's got some bigger some bigger advantages that I may have not had coming. Oh my god, look at me. Oh, I'm fucking mess with the conversation.
bro, we just started. I get it. Look, Kane is such an impressive and really, he is a genuine soul, you know, a very nice and impressive young man.
Yeah, thank you. I've often said if my judgment as a man, as a human, is based off of how well he does, then I'm good. He's solid.
So, I know that you guys have a lot of things that you like to do together. Do you want to talk about some of that?
Yeah, we ride dirt bikes. I think it's a big part of what we do. So I've teach him or taught him, the mechanics of things and how to do his maintenance and work on things. I think that's been a really cool part of life. But I think past being a dad, I think the next part of life is I'm a student. I'm a learner. I'm continuously growing, continuously evolving. I'm whatever it is, I feel like I'm just trying to get better, a little bit better today than I was yesterday. And, maybe that's finance, or it might be investing, or it's, treating people better, being a better person, being a better contributor to this world. But yeah, that's who I'd say I am. I'm a dad, I'm a student, I'm a learner, I'm a teacher. As far as material things, like, yeah, we're dirt bike riders. Get a cool old car in the garage that I need to get fixed up and be able to bring back onto the street someday. I feel like I'm a modern Renaissance man. I can weld things and make things and build things, and I can build stuff and wood, and I make things, and I can make beds and sheds and all that fun stuff. So I figured my artistic and creative freedom goes much further than a brush or a pen. Maybe one day it might be a saw and a drill, or a welder and a grinder. But yeah, always being creative, always making things.
Yeah, I remember you have no shortage of projects in your camera roll to show me. Be like, Jack, I'm building this cool big table so that maybe we could come over and have a big drawing night some night or something. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of these projects tend to stem from, not even just something that you wanted, but something you think that someone else or a group of people would like, you know?
Yeah. So that big ass table you're referencing is actually done. It's over here. We use it all the time. There's a bunch of markers and drawing pieces all strewn about it as we speak. But I think another part of the journey that kind of brings up now is not knowing or realizing my ADHD until I was late into my 40s. So I think all those projects that we may have talked about at whatever time in life have come to a point now where I'm cutting things loose and maybe finishing loose ends, or just dumping things loose altogether and just trying to really niche down, and or not even niche down, but just keep to my core. So a fun little story, I started using ChatGPT almost as a teacher. I told my ChatGPT to be my business partner, that you're helping me through this business world. So I have conversations as if I'm having like a business meeting. But part of that, you can go into ChatGPT and tell it the parameters of how you want it to work with you. like what do you want me to be? So I told the ChatGPT, I want you to be a business partner. I want you to shoot me straight. I want you to, keep me focused. You want to keep me, from being distracted before, don't like let me get into things. I told ChatGPT this like list of my priorities, my core interests in life, the things I need to do. I mean, work, tattoo, raise cane, a little bit of project here or there, maybe that I could, I could really care about. But I told ChatGPT, anything outside of these core values, I want you to tell me this isn't part of my core values. I need to pump the brakes, remind myself that I've got ADHD and I don't need to get into these other things. So I told Russ this over a dinner at Ola one night, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's cool, but I can't see how that would actually work." So I was like, "Let's test it." So Lilith says hang gliding or parasailing. She said it's parasailing. So I take my phone out and I just tap into Chat GPT really quick. It's like, "Hey man, I just saw this cool thing with this person's paragliding, or what? Oh my god, it was so cool! Like how could I get into that?" And then Chat GPT was like, "Okay, let's pump the brakes a second. Let's remember this is outside of your core values, so let's not get too excited." And it went through and said it exactly. And then it was like, and just to kind of help your curiosity, it would cost you about this and this and much for this and this much and that for that. So it did tell me after, it was like, "Yo, are you having an ADHD moment?" So yeah.
Redirection is definitely one of the hardest things to do as a person with ADHD. I mean, actually, redirection is easy because it's like, okay, yeah, but
Squirrel.
coming back to a place of the direction you actually want to be in, that's the hard part. So that's a neat little tool that you figured out.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think that that gives this conversation has given a really good window, even past the introduction, about who you are as a tattooer and a person and what you value in and outside of the studio. Is there anything else you'd want people to know about you? Just, you know, whether they're first meeting you or whether they've known you for years, what's something that can't be missed?
I don't know. I feel like we really did nail and kind of go over like so much of this stuff is, it's I guess I would want people to know and realize I'm here to I'm here to spread love and share art. Be able to give people art that they can wear or put on a wall. But yeah, this isn't, my journey isn't about me. It's about all the people I'm lucky enough to come in contact with, and how many, how many lives can I put a positive impression to. So yeah, I'm here to share. So
Well, very good. I think that we can kind of come up with a way to close this out.
I think you
That
did. I think you did a
okay.
wonderful job. Yeah. And we're at
Awesome.
50 minutes recorded already, so
Well, if you ever think of something else that you'd kind of need help with online or with starting YouTube, I know that chat is great when it comes to like bouncing ideas off of them, but I'm also here. I'm in the same space of content
awesome.
creation and
Yeah.
management. So if you want an actual like human business partner to bounce ideas off, I am here for you. You
Yeah.
know, I really enjoyed this different medium than what I usually get these responses from. But coming back to the actual recording, uh, I really thank you, Brian, for sitting with me and letting me learn again the things that I already know, but also learn things that I haven't come in contact with you yet. So I am just glad that I was able to talk with you
Yeah.
and that hopefully others will get to see this and know that you're here, you're in Roswell, ready to tattoo them at Ink and Dagger and ready to really, really make that experience amazing no
Special.
matter what it looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jackie. You're amazing. It's been too long. I haven't seen you in quite some time. So We'll have
I
to.
know every time I'm at the shop, you're not there. What's up with that, bro? Last time I was there, I go to your station and it's like a guest artist, the Hispanic woman.
Yeah,
I forgot
Julia
her
was just
name.
there recently.
Julia. Yes. I was like, oh my God, don't tell me. But then I saw your sign, your banner was
Yeah,
still
my
there, and I
banner.
was like,
Yeah.
oh, breathe a sigh of
Um,
relief.
if you make it there and I'm not there again, leave me a little love letter post-it note on the wall.
Okay, we'll do. Well, Brian Bennett, everybody, thank you so much.
You're the best. Yeah, I'll message you in a little bit. I'll send you some stuff I've been working on, and if we can collab, that'd be awesome.